Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Death Note Part 1, Episode 12, Love. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happens within this episode. Alright, so in this episode, we have Light arriving at the task force, officially invited by L to join, which he thinks is a good thing because he was trying to figure out how to get the invitation, even though Elle had previously already indicated an interest in working with him. And so he arrives there, and the test that Elle was setting for Light in the previous episode is explained, and Light is essentially, when he gets there, asked to watch one of the videos from the second Kira, and he manages to deduce that there is in fact a second Kira, that it's not the original Kira, and he gives the same explanation that Elle gave when he first watched the videos, which earns him the admiration of the other task force members, and Elle decides to give him the job of impersonating himself and basically making a response video to the second Kira as Kira. And that is exactly what he does. That video airs, and then we then see Misa and Rem watching the news when the response airs, and she then decides to send another response to him, basically saying, like, I've heard you, I'm so glad you responded to me, I will do as you ask, but I do want to meet you, and then proceeds to give away certain information that maybe they didn't want public, or at least Light wouldn't have wanted public. And then once that airs, Elle basically says that everything's about to get interesting because either Kira, the real Kira, not the police mimicking the first Kira, will respond and try to meet the second Kira, or he won't, and the second Kira will give away even more information, trying desperately to get Kira's attention. And that leaves Light in a bit of a conundrum because, does he contact, put out his own response, potentially revealing information about himself that he doesn't want the police to know? Or does he try a different way to find the second Kira? How is he going to do that? We then have back with Misa and Rem. Misa is complaining about how there hasn't been a response to her second contacting of the news yet, and she's thinking of making yet another video. And then Rem informs her, then she starts asking Rem about Shinigami, and Rem informs her how her Death Note came to be in the human world, how there was a Shinigami named Jealous who fell in love with her, and when she was attacked, he killed the attacker in order to save her, but as saving a human's life is against the rules, and the purpose of Shinigami is to take human life, as a result of saving her life, Jealous died. She got his lifespan that he had stored up to that point, and he turned into glittery dust, and leaving behind his death note, which Rem felt was rightfully Misa's, as she was the one who he died for, and so Rem brought the notebook to Misa in the human realm. And then the very end of the episode is Light going to a cafe, musing on his choices and options, and Misa arrives at the same cafe, though does not see him, and orders a parfait while giggling internally about how she's so excited to get to meet Kira and hopes that it's soon. So now that we've been reminded about what happens in this episode, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we rank on our two lists, the mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values, and our personal ranking list, which is purely based on our opinion and emotion and response to the episode. So, as always, we start with our mostly objective rank values, and we start with our single arc supporting character introduction in the form of Jealous, who we see briefly in the flashback that Rem has to witnessing his death and what led up to it. We then, of course, get our single arc main character, which is the introduction of the Shinigami Rem, and that's worth 2 points. We then get our multi-arc supporting character introduction, Misa Amane, which you could make an argument that she's a main character because she's in multiple arcs. However, I feel like her main purpose is to pester Light and get him closer and closer to being caught. But ultimately, if she's not pestering Light, she's really not on screen, and it really is more about Elle and Light's cat and mouse, in my opinion. And so, while she has multiple arcs, I still consider her to be a supporting character, not actually a main character. Similar to how the detectives are multi-arc, but still supporting characters. And that, of course, is then worth 3 points. We then worth 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. We then get our world building element, which is, of course, the revelation of how to kill a Shinigami, which up to this point, we haven't known if they are truly immortal, if they can be killed, but now we know one has died and exactly how that happened. Whether that's the only way to kill a Shinigami, I can't remember if it is or not, but it definitely is a way to kill a Shinigami. And so that brings us to 10 points, but there is a negative. And that is the weak or dislikable supporting character. And this, of course, excludes characters meant to be disliked. But in my opinion, Misa Amane is a terribly dislikable character. I hate that that's pretty much the main representation of like a female character within the series. It's very male dominated, and oh my god, I just hate this representation. She literally behaves like when she's talking, she's trying to be cute. She is very childlike. She is dim. Obviously, in the last episode, she sent the videos, which kind of ruined or at least put a negative spin on Kira's reputation. She killed an innocent police officer. She killed minor criminals, which Kira doesn't do typically, which obviously is going to make the public, when she's claiming to be the only Kira, start to look at Kira a little bit askance, kind of ruin his reputation, which he did have people who were on his side because of the fact that he was killing the scum of the earth, the criminals. Then, of course, the police make a response. She takes the bait immediately because she is dim. You know, she then reveals information trying to prove that she's a Kira and send a message to the original Kira, but it's public, the message she's sending out, and she talks about the eyes, she talks about Shinigami, and it's like, you know what, he may not have wanted people to know about those things. I just feel like this character is so incompetent. And I like the character design. That's the one thing I will say is positive. I mean, the actual visual of the character is good, but everything inside the character is just terrible. It's an immature, not very bright, selfish person who, like, literally in the future, she blackmails Light to be with her because she's decided she loves him, so therefore he has to be with her, can't say no, can't reject, and if he tries, Rem will kill him. And like they're gonna make us believe that not one but two Shinigami fall in love with this person. And it's like, ugh. And I hate when characters who are very incompetent step into a realm that requires more competency than they have, especially when it ends up ruining things for other people. Like, how far do you think Light could have gotten if she'd never existed? Probably a lot farther than he did. And I mean, he manages by the skin of his teeth to come back from it, but still, I know why they added her. The drama. Light wouldn't make these mistakes we're led to believe, because he's meant to be a very intelligent character. So they had to bring basically somebody who is going to make all the mistakes so that he will get caught into the show. And that is Misa. And like I said, I love the visual, but everything else about the characters, very unlikable, at least to me. This is not a type of character that I like. It's not a stereotype I like. It's not a trope I like. And while there are some people who may like that, for me, it definitely brings down the series having a character like this. And it also just bothers me that that's the representation they go with for like a female character. I'm speechless, but honestly, well, not speechless. I just did a rant, but the point I am making is essentially I think she's a weak character. I think she is a dislikable character. And that is why I decided to take 4 points for her introduction because crap. So that then gives this episode an objective score of 6 out of 10. And then as a reminder of our part 1 rankings so far for our mostly objective ranking, in first place we have Rebirth, Confrontation, Doubt, Encounter, Tactics, Pursuit, Glare, Unraveling. This episode, Love, falls into ninth place. Then we have Dealings, Assault, and Overcast. So now we come to the personal rankings. Now we've already covered and established I don't like Misa as a character. However, I do think the little flashback with Jealous and learning how Shinigami dies, I think that's a really cute story. Honestly, Jealous seemed like a really nice guy, and I was upset that he died, especially since it was to save Misa, whom I do not like as a character. So, as much as I dislike Misa as a character, I did like the little backstory of how she got the note. Um, we get Elle sort of noting even that the fake Kira or second Kira sympathizes with the real Kira, but is not very bright. So basically, everybody agrees she's not very bright. But he does note that she would obey the real Kira, and this is proven true when Elle has Light play the part of Kira himself, and when Light says, "Don't kill the innocent," she agrees to, basically give up on her vendetta to try to get Elle on screen. Even though that isn't what the real Kira would have wanted, she's not very bright. She doesn't pick up on that. She says that she will do what he says, proving Elle right that the second Kira will obey the original Kira. But at the same time, she's not very bright. She gives up information. This puts us back. And when she gives up the information, she mentions how when they meet, they can compare their Shinigamis, and they'll do that because she doesn't think he has the eyes. And another thing that gave me a bit of an ick on this episode, Elle's reaction to learning about Shinigami, or even conceiving of the possibility that Shinigami could be real. He throws his hands up above his head. He leans so far back in the chair that it literally falls to the side and he ends up on the floor while he's screaming with his mouth wide open. And like is like, you expect me to believe in the possibility that Shinigami could exist? I mean, and then Light's like, of course Shinigami don't exist while Ryuk's there hovering behind him. And Elle says that that Kira has mentioned Shinigami before, and Light comes up with an excuse for that, that maybe they're talking about their killing power or the power that lets them kill, but it wouldn't be an actual Shinigami, obviously. And Elle seems to accept that and tries to regain whatever dignity he can. However, oh, that reaction was icky. It was way over the top, and not over the top in an epically comedic way like the dramatic writing scenes and potato chip eating, but like over the top in the I am embarrassed on your behalf. I am a sufferer of secondhand embarrassment, And anyone else who is a sufferer of secondhand embarrassment will understand what I say when you do not, it is not an enjoyable thing to be a sufferer of. I hate that I can feel other people's embarrassments on their behalf, but when characters or people do things that are just to me perceived to be incredibly embarrassing and undignified and so on and so forth, I feel it like it was me and I hate that feeling. I really, really do. And this L is my favorite character, hands down. I adore him. But this this reaction, it gave me the ick. Big time. So basically, to summarize my opinion on the episode, I liked the cute backstory. I liked learning how to kill a Shinigami. I was neutral on the whole test thing. I found Light having to imitate himself to be somewhat amusing. I hated the reaction that L had to the second Kira tape mentioning Shinigami, and I do not like Misa as a character, so her official introduction is depressing, and I do not like it. But luckily, her part in this episode was small, and I understand her necessity as a character for plot purposes, as the one who's going to be incompetent, making all of the mistakes. But I also don't like the way that she pesters Light because should be obligated to give feelings to someone else just because they happen to have feelings for them. And I feel like one thing that this show does is basically Light's blackmailed into a relationship by a Shinigami who can kill him at any time because somebody else likes him, even though he does not, at any point in the series to my recollection, show any sort of affection or caring for Misa as a character. So to me, there is no mutual feeling there. And that also bothers me, but that's a future issue, not a present one. Either way, I don't like the character. That gives a big negative. I got a nick from my favorite character, which is a big negative. I was neutral on some other things, and the only positive really was the cute backstory. So, having summarized all that, I gave it a 4 out of 10. And that brings our part 1 ranking so far in the personal ranking to, in first place, Rebirth, Encounter, Glare, Doubt, Pursuit, Confrontation, Tactics, Dealings. In ninth place, Love, which is this episode. And then 10th, Overcast, Unraveling, and last place so far is Assault. And that now brings us to our series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, we have now added up to 83 out of 260 points. 260 is, of course, the maximum score, as each episode can earn a maximum of 10 points. And there are 26 episodes in this part. And then on the personal ranking so far, we have gained 71 out of 260 points. And with that, we've now watched or rewatched and ranked Death Note Part 1, Episode 12, Love. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.